from Diplomatic Language Services, and welcome to our podcast, Language Matters. We make language accessible to everyday people by discussing features which may not exist in other languages. I'm your host, Molly Sampson.
Hello, and welcome to the DLS podcast. Today, we are going to talk about Eid, Ramadan and Eid, and I have with me Wita, who is from Indonesia.
Hi.
And I have Reem, and Reem is originally from Syria, but grew up in the Middle East, in Saudi, I think mostly.
That is correct, yes.
And I have Ferdun, who is from Afghanistan.
Hi.
I just want to start out with maybe a general explanation of what is Ramadan, what is Eid, and I know there are two different celebrations of Eid.
Yes. So the official religious holidays are, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Fitr is the break of the fast after a long month of fast. For Ramadan, basically, we are invited to celebrate, or the idea behind it that God invited us to celebrate, the festivity and the food after like a long month. The other Eid is Eid al-Adha, which is the pilgrimage, right? This is the time when, people choose to go to Mecca to finish the fifth, major part of Islam. And this is the celebration of Eid al-Adha is actually marks the end of that Eid as well. So both of them following religious practices and, and they are celebrated in a Muslim world.
I see. And in Afghanistan and in Indonesia, or I guess in Asia in general, and then Central Asia, is there anything you would add that's different or similar?
It's actually similar. It's the same, actually, not similar. What Reem said. Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr is for the Ramadan, which is break the fasting, and then the Eid al-Adha is actually more to the sacrifice, the feast of the sacrifice. For those people who even not going for Hajj, we still celebrate because we do sacrifice, at home, and then all those the sacrifice that we made, we give it away for the poor people. That's what actually the sacrifice part of the one who's not going to Hajj.
So when you say sacrifice, what do you mean specifically?
On the Feast of the Sacrifice, I forgot to mention about, this is actually the animal that we sacrifice. Mostly it's the cow or the goat or the lamb. Yeah.
I see. So you sacrifice it and then you distribute it to people who need it.
And of course, you're supposed to start local, and it also can be overseas. So that any a group of people who are in need, any country that they have like something that they might need more, or, there's certain situation, whether it's, political or, war or whatever. So always that is kind of kept in mind. Yeah.
And so it's, I would say overall, so the practices are the same in Afghanistan as well, but some of the specifics and details might be different. For example, the religious part might be the same. For example, sacrificing a cow, like 7 people or 7 family may get together and sacrifice one cow, or one family may sacrifice a goat or a sheep. But when it comes to some of the specifics, it could be different. For example, because it's more, to me, sounds cultural. For example, the meat that you get from the animal. In some parts of Afghanistan, the general practice is that you divide the meat into 3 parts. You keep one part, and then you give away one part to the poor and a third part to relatives. So this is something based on what I have heard might not be the same in Middle Eastern or other countries that celebrate Eid and they do sacrifice animals.
Again, it's the same what they said, but it's very interesting what Faridun said about 3 parts. I only know about 2 parts in Indonesia. Again, I think it's the culture because we only have, a small part for who actually sacrificed the cow, and then the rest of it. So we just divide it by two. It's not, of course, the different portion. The one who sacrifices only get the smaller part, and the rest it just we distribute for whoever that needs it. And then again, that's just the culture, but basically for the all the the religious practice is the same.
I see. Well, let's talk a little bit about like Ramadan itself. Are there different practices about fasting in across the different cultures?
I mean, I can jump in a little bit. I don't think it's going to be hugely different. I think what's going to be different, of course, the sunrise, sunset, it depends on when you, where you are, the location that you are. So it depends on where you live, and also the beginning of the fast and the ending of the fast. It depends on the moon of the area where you live. So you should actually reach out to your own location, not necessarily kind of follow like another country or anything like that. But the fasting itself is kind of similar. The idea about it is not only to fast about food, but also to fast about saying bad things or, thinking bad thoughts about people and, just have empathy for the poor. And so it has a lot of meaning and background meaning. It goes beyond the hunger part. The hunger part, of course, is the one that's mostly mentioned because the hunger part is just it's a human need. So we're always talking about it, but there are a lot of other things that, you actually start, you have to do. I'm not supposed to talk bad about my neighbor or think bad thoughts about someone or, just kind of have that good thought or cleansed thought, during that time. So it kind of puts in perspective everything. It puts humankind, they're all good and kind in a way. And I remember one time, my daughter, she was 8 and she loved fasting. We're talking since she was 5. And I remember it was a long day, she would, and then she was really kind of towards the end, she was angry that she couldn't eat or drink. And not that I've asked her to do it, it was on her own volition. So I actually told her, it's listen, if you want to break your fast, that's okay, but you cannot get upset about it. So it teaches patience. It teaches a lot of good things. And I think that's personally, I think that's the part I like about Ramadan. I find it peaceful. It's like a reconnection with humanity, the good things that, it just reminds you of a lot of good things. And, those first 10 minutes after breaking the fast, they're awesome, honestly, because you're so hungry also. And then it's just oh yes, thank you God for the food.
It's not only about the hunger portion, but as well, it's actually about the control, emotion overall. So this is it's really funny because last week I had the experience, met with my friends, and then suddenly we talk about, oh, you know what, this person, I forgot, I was so mad, blah, blah, blah. And then my husband we're in a fasting. I was oh, that's right, so quiet, And then supposedly this is not happen every day. I think for myself, I think the religion, they teach us in here that, it's not only for the Ramadan, we have to control every day, but hopefully this month will, carry out, all the good deeds, all the control, the emotional, the control that we have to control the emotion and everything. We have to carry on every single day, not just only hopefully after the Ramadan we get used to, and then bring the kindness overall throughout, our life. So every once a year, the religion teach us, hey, you have to control, you have to see what you did, before, and then start again to make a good deed or doing something that you can control, not, saying something bad thing or, just to try to control your own emotion. So I hope that will be carried on throughout your life.
Totally, because it's almost like a reminder and a training period for the rest of the 11 months. It's okay, remember, this is what it's all about. Yeah. I agree.
I think as Rima and Wita said, so the general practices are the same, except the differences that Reem mentioned. Just one other point that says I don't know if it is the same across different countries. For example, in Afghanistan, during the month of Ramadan, so eating during the day is forbidden outside in restaurants, everywhere. Even there is usually an announcement for foreign nationals, like embassies and all that, that they should avoid eating in public. And that's why, like when I first came to the United States, my first Ramadan was a little bit different because I wasn't used to seeing people eat in front of me during the during the day in the month of Ramadan. But it could be different because Afghanistan was a very predominantly Muslim country, so with a very small percentage of non-Muslims, but I'm not sure if it could be the same, for example, in other countries like Indonesia and so.
Well, in Indonesia, it's actually because we're not a Muslim country, it's not ruled by the Islamic rules. But even though we are dominated by with the Muslims, however, restaurants still open. People still eating outside. It's not really strict, rules. However, when it comes to Ramadan, if you see the restaurant in Indonesia, most of the restaurant, they have the curtain to, cover the windows. Usually it's only happen on Ramadan, just only to respect people because we are dominated by Muslim, but it's still open. And then people is not, who's not Muslim, they still eating, even though they probably most of it still respect us, So the all the restaurant, they, close with the curtain. So the windows, so people eating in the restaurant, whoever that, fasting, don't see them eating in the restaurant. But it is different in here. It's just because the time in Indonesia, because the moon is the same all the time. We have 12 hours, for the fasting. But in here, when the first time I fast for summertime in here, it's quite tough because more than 16 hours. That's it. That's the difference. That's the tough part.
Yeah, I think, Reem, I don't know if it's the same in Saudi and or Syria, but in the UAE, they have a similar thing because they have a lot of foreign nationals in the UAE. So they do the curtains over the restaurants if they're going to be open. And then the ones that are outside or whatever are closed. Everybody has to be eating inside behind a curtain.
Also, in the Levant, I think it's a little bit different than Saudi. Like Saudi, everybody is fasting, like the whole society, growing up there, the whole society, everyone is fasting. There's they go a little bit later for even work. They kind of adjust the work hours as well. So it's kind of because, everybody kind of almost stays up until the sahur time. So they will eat the sahur meal, then they will go to bed. So time, when they start the fasting or when they, obviously it's the same, but when they start work during Ramadan, it's 11. And it's just this is something that does not happen in the Levant. In the Levant, it actually starts a regular time. The idea behind the fasting is you have to do all your chores, no matter what, no matter the circumstance, you kind of go about your daily life as is. So in the Levant, you have other, right? For example, Syria, you have a lot of, people from different religions, different sects, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, I would say they will kind of be very respectful. The only other thing is not a big deal if someone ate in front of me. For example, if a student decided to drink something in front of me, this is kind of where we feel or we believe that it is a blessing. I'm adding more of my hasanat because I'm actually kind of seeing someone else eating, as life is. A lot of people are actually very respectful and they try, and then they're always kind of have that in mind because people are generally nice and they want to, they don't want to add to your,
I agree with Reem. It's funny, my students, it's actually last week, he was eating and oh my God, I forgot you're fasting. And I was like, no, go ahead, because if you eat in front of me, it's actually more blessing for me. But a lot of students, yes, absolutely respect to us as well. And then they say something, and I was telling them, no, just do as regular, do what you usually do, because it is a bless for us, additional blessing for us actually.
And going back to the symbolism or the idea behind it, where it's not necessarily a huge thing. It's we should be able to fight temptation. We are hungry, yes, but we're doing that for the faith. So it's hasanat there for us for a reason.
So the harder it is, the more
Yes.
Rewarding.
more self-reflective you have to be. So do you see, I guess we talked a little bit about practicing here in the States. Are there rules about children and when they should fast or not fast, or is it just really up to them at some point?
Well, ideally speaking, you're not supposed to fast until like you're 13, or 15.
Like puberty?
13, exactly. 13 for the girl and 15, I think 15 for the boy. But you're supposed to start early. Being a child, like in Syria, like you have something what we call, the small fasting or like Adhan al-fasting, it's like a Siyam al-Adhan. Basically what it means, like, you train the children to kind of start, like usually go breakfast, lunch, and dinner without any snacks or water. And that starts at 7. This is the year when you start training. And then, the years go, like this is like the first year he or she is 7. Then you start like that kind of like breakfast, please no food until lunchtime, please no food until iftar time. Then the year to follow, you'll spread it out a little bit more. So it might be like breakfast and iftar, okay, or dinner for the child. And that year to follow, depending on that child, of course. But it's not an easy task for children, honestly. I mean, I remember I cheated when I was little. I'll pretend like I was praying, and then I'll do like drink a little bit instead of having wudu. And then my aunt will catch me and then she will say, I was like, you're drinking water, So, and I will go like, for example, to my grandma's room, and she had like this, like a place where she will put her books and, things that will look, but one among of the things that she will put like a ball of bombonis, which is, hard candy. And she will be praying and I'll pop one in my mouth. As a child, you don't know, how important. And then I will crunch it. It's like she's praying. It's like, what is that noise? So you'll go through a period where it has to kind of take care of itself. You'll do some childish things like that.
Yeah, we all start early, for learning how to fast. When I was in elementary school, again, usually we have breakfast, but on the fasting, we usually skip the breakfast. And then I remember my mom is actually ready the gift, like a small gift, like a candy, put it, on the table. Okay, if you don't drink or eat until 12, for lunchtime, this candy is for you. It's always kind of like have a goal for me. A goal is not a fate yet. It's about something, So yeah, because I want to eat that one, so I fast morning. And then when it's come to 12, I usually already in front of the table waiting for my mom give me that gift. That's happened, on the training day. When it comes to, I think like around 13, the puberty already, arrives. So it starts where I have to do fasting all day, even though once in a while, I might pretend that I'm sick. So, I got a headache, I got a stomach ache, and then I was like complaining all day to my mom, and I was like, okay, just go ahead, drink and stuff like that. Because, there is an exception. If you're sick, you cannot do fasting,
Right,
so
right.
that's my weapon, if I feel like, I really, feel like hungry and I want to drink of water, that's what I did all the time. Yeah, I can skip that.
Sarah, do your kids do this?
Well, actually, yes. As a practice, my daughter, who is 12, fasted only one day this year, like this Ramadan, so the full day. And she wanted to do more days, but I didn't let her do that because at the end of that first day of fasting, she was she was having a really hard time, and she wasn't able to eat. After that, I said, no, that's I think you can't do it. So as Wita said, that it's also about if you're sick or if you don't have the ability to fast, then you're allowed to eat. So I kind of give permission to my daughter. I mean, she's too young, but still. And also in Afghanistan, when they do practice Ramadan, like younger kids, they would wake up with their family early in the morning to eat, and then see how much they could do. They could do maybe the first 5 hours, 8 hours, or sometimes they might be able to do it until the iftar, which is when we break our fast. So.
It's also a big thing, by the way, what Faridun said. It's a big thing. Sahur for the little kids. It actually is a huge encouragement point because they feel like they're adults in a way. So they kind of get up. And, it's just like, it's almost like for us in our family, it's almost like our special time with the kids, because like you'll be like almost, it's very hard to wake up and then, among like a regular day or a school day and that kind of thing. But actually they get excited about it. It feels like, oh, like this is it's almost like something special. And also it kind of creates memories, believe it or not. Some of the memories that, I have, like not necessarily with my mom, but rather with my grandma, because she will actually kind of do like a spread. I mean, she will go all out to kind of do it. So it's exciting for children. I mean, you do have that kind of memories like, oh, I want to do it like my grandma did, and make sure that my kids have those memories. So it's kind of funny because they can get like, it's hard to wake them up, but once they are awake, it's just like, oh no, we want to do this because, it's just like nobody else is doing that. We are kind of among the adults. And, so I think it, at least from my experience, I've seen it like, it's kind of like a good point, it's just like an encouraging point for the, children in a way.
So the breaking of the fast is triggered by the sunset. So as soon as the sun sets and wherever you are, that's when you break your fast. Yeah. Is there something in particular that you break a fast with, or is it just whatever, you just have the meal or the iftar at the time?
It's usually prefer to fast the day, fast with a date. So if date is not available, water. If water is not available, then anything. So it's at least that's how I know. I think it could be the same across other countries. So
I think it's the same. We're just following the first one when we break the fasting. We're following our prophet, eating the dates. Yeah. However, if the date's not available, of course, water. And then after that, basically, it's a sweet first, like not really that sweet, but just a sweet thing in the morning. When the time to break fasting, and then after that, you go pray first for the time, and then after the praying time, then you can eat, the whole some whatever that you have.
We break the fast the sunset, but one thing that's early in the morning, so it's not sunrise, because some people may think that, oh, you can eat until the sunrise. No, it's a little bit earlier, like it's before dawn.
The Fajr part is like literally the first slither of light, so really when you're eating is still like dark.
Here it must be like 5 a.m, right? Because I think the sun starts to come up 5:36.
Yeah, it's around 5. We already stopped eating
right now.
Because we depend on the lunar sightings.
I think we've talked a lot, gone through a lot of things. Is there anything interesting that you want to add to the discussion that we didn't get covered?
The way Indonesia has very specific celebration when it comes to the Eid al-Fitr. In Indonesia, because again, this is kind of like more festive, the way we celebrate. The holiday could be one full week because this is the time where everybody, it's like a Thanksgiving in the United States. Everybody went back home. This is in Indonesia, we call it mudik. Mudik is the term for people going home or going to their hometown to see their family. Okay, because that's the important part is basically we have to connect with the family, and then we asking forgiveness each other, especially for the elder. Okay, we have to go to the people that are older than us, especially the parents, that first of all, and then going to our grandma or basically, and then after that going whoever the last one is going to the neighborhood. But first of all, why we have a 1 week off in Indonesia most of the time, because we have to go to our hometown. And the other difference is in Indonesia, if Ramadan coming, this is going to be a lot of when the price is high, it's not just inflation. The prices, all the food, the stuff, it's high. Why? It's because everybody will cook, more than the regular day because of Ramadan. And at the end of it, for the celebrating, we always cook the traditional food, which is every single household. It might have the same food. We have the same food, but so even though we go to our hometown, the food is one or two food. It might be different, but in general, it's the same. So sometimes I have to eat the same food from one house to the other, from my grandma to my father's side, or my grandpa to my mom's side. It's kind of like the same food. I have to eat it. I have to, kind of stuff it all the same food, because that's the way. And then I have to eat it because that's the way how we, saying grateful to them. They already put their effort to cook for us. The other difference in Indonesia, when it comes to the end of Ramadan, start celebrating the Eid, most likely you will see the children playing with firecracker or fireworks. Yeah, the celebration is really, really big. Other than the same religious, practice like prayers, congregation, but social gatherings and family reunions, that's the first thing, for the celebration in Indonesia.
It's very true what has said, because really, we have like mamul and karabish and, the same sweets that every household will get. But then, because everybody wants you to kind of, do, eat from what they prepared. Ideally speaking, like you're supposed to prepare that yourself for the guests, not necessarily buy it as well. So you can't eat the same thing, you're visiting a lot of people, but every family will insist that you have some of their homemade goods, and visiting 10, 12 families. It can, it's like you at some point, sometimes it says like, I really can. They really insist, because again, part of it is that you have to, and also I think in our household, like my grandfather always insisted on making it. So the day before the Eid, it was like a lot of work. You'll hear it by as the time, because we have like molds to make ma'mul, which is like really a dough that has, nuts or dates or pistachio, that kind of thing. So as the time goes by, you hear like, people are angry, like they're mashing it because they're tired. They're making huge amounts. So you'll hear the mashing of the molds, because they have to mash it to get what's inside decorative, right? So you'll hear as the time goes by, like it's kind of the noise gets louder because everybody is so tired. At the time, maybe it's a lot of work, but then you fondly remember it later on.
So cookies, sweets in Afghanistan, dry fruits, or some nuts. So these are very common during the Eid. And of course, when it comes to cookies and sweets, children really like that. So it's a very happy, like a double happy day for children. Actually, Eid means like happiness, that's like where like children are really happy, and it's as Vita says, like a family day, and especially children, like a day for children as well. So in Afghanistan, children receive presents. So it could be in different forms, so depending on where they live. For example, in cities, it could be money, or it could be hard-boiled egg, or it could be other. In the suburbs, it could be, for example, walnut or other fruits that's available locally, and they give it to children. And it's a day where children will also go out and play, and so they're usually quite a lot of activities going on, especially in big cities in Afghanistan where children will go out and play. I think it's a family day for grown-ups where they meet each other. And one of the most important parts of Eid is that Eid is a day where you set aside any disagreements that you had with someone. For example, you didn't talk with someone for the past 5 months, but now it is time to start to talk to them. Usually it is the younger one in age that would go to those who are elder and pay respect. So that's something very common. And one thing that's also interesting in Afghanistan is right after the Eid prayer, which is usually in the morning, so around 8 o'clock, usually in Afghanistan and Kabul in particular, so they go visit neighbors first. Because in our culture, neighbor is first because we're so close. We say that, I have a brother, but that brother lives 30 miles from me, for example, but you neighbor live literally next to me. So that's why neighbors would usually visit each other that morning because they live so close by. They can finish that in the morning, that first day right after Eid prayer, and especially that they go to the same masjid. So when they come out, so they will go kind of in big groups to each other's house to finish what they consider kind of finish that round of visiting neighbors. And then starting the afternoon, it is for the family and relatives.
Is it also a full week? Or is it
in Afghanistan, officially it's 3 days, but sometimes it could be stretched out, especially if, let's say that it's in Afghanistan, Friday is the weekend in the United States or the regular holiday. Let's say that the fourth day falls on a Thursday, then obviously, so that Thursday will be officially called a holiday. But other than that, it's in general 3 days of official holiday. But some people wouldn't go to work the fourth day of Eid. So if you need to get your work done in an office, you wouldn't go to an office on the fourth day of Eid because you know you won't be able to get your work done.
We're also 3 days, nothing, not more than that. Maybe some people might choose to kind of hook maybe if from their office, maybe they can take some time off, but officially it's 3 days usually. Yeah.
Well, in Indonesia, officially 3 days, but then after years and years, consideration, the government now, it's been the last 10 years, they decided to do 1 week. It's just because this is the time when people going back hometown. It takes time for them to come back. So that's why instead of just giving 3 days, but again, the preparation, like Rim said, the preparation for celebration, yes, in Indonesia, usually a week before. Right now, a lot of Indonesian, here in the United States or even in Indonesia, of course, they prepare to make cookies, stuff like that to be ready on the Eid. That's why sometimes when we go somewhere other than Ramadan, and then if they make cookies in their house and then smells like Ramadan, smells like Ramadan if they make cookies, because usually we make cookies just only for in Ramadan. So it's a week preparation for that. It's really a hard work for just only to celebrate for 2 days.
Right. Okay, well, now we're talking a lot about food, and you guys are fasting, so I feel a little bad that we're talking so much about food.
This is the hasanat that we talked about. It's fine.
So, yes, true. So, well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Language Matters. You can continue this conversation by tweeting us at diplomaticls or find us on Facebook by searching for Diplomatic Language Services.